This special post-season edition of From the House of the Holy was recorded 1 week after our regular season game of the 2018 season. This means this was recorded about 2 months ago, and I would like to apologise to our special guest, Mr. Tristan Pack, plus also my co-host, Mr. Daniel Tilby, and all our loyal listeners there of From the House of the Holy. However, with this comes good news. We will be continuing the podcast in the 2019 season, and we'll also, as promised, have at least one special edition episode during the off-season. We're looking to mix things up with a different format from time to time. But until that happens, we hope you enjoy this last edition of From the House of the Holy for the 2018 season. And we'll see you next year, 2019. Enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Stirling Saints Football Club podcast from the House of the Holy, your insider look into the players and people who make our humble sporting club. I am, as always, your host, Damon Eaton, and with me, as always, is my reliable co-host. He was a strong contender to be this series' bachelor, but the show's producers thought his handle of Syrup Hedgehog was a bit too much. It's a good evening to Mr. Daniel Tilby.
Damo, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm actually watching The Bachelor now. I'm really enjoying it too. But, yeah, Syrup Hedgehog, I don't know what that is.
Well, I tried coming up with something there. I thought, what's a nickname I could use there? I actually ran a few past my wife. She said, don't. Just don't.
I'm going to Google it.
I just came up with honey, syrup.
All right. I would suggest every one of our listeners to... maybe Google that and see what it means.
I had a couple of other ones there, Tills, I was throwing around. Sugar Mongoose was another one.
Sugar Mongoose is good, Damo. I have played the Brazilian Mongoose back in my earlier youth, and it's too good fruition.
All right, mate. Well, we'll get straight into it. This is actually really our final interviewed podcast for the season, Tills. We'll have one more next week. It'll be an abbreviated version. Just you and me talking about a few things. But let's talk about our last guest for the season, mate. We got someone from the coaching staff for our season, so it's a good one, and it's probably fitting that we have someone from the coaching staff speak this week. Look, he's been with our club quite a few times. He's been a long-serving ruckman for our league side for a very long time. Took a bit of a sojourn elsewhere, and he's come back, and we're back to open arms, and it's been an interesting season for him. Round of applause. Please welcome back Tristan Pack. How you going, mate?
Good, Damo. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, buddy. I'm happy that the weather's changing for the better. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, it's been nice the last few days, hasn't it? That's for sure.
Today was glorious, mate. I've never hated winter so much than this year because it's so cold. My boys have had every single illness under the sun, and I don't even get to play footy to enjoy it. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, my son's only 6.5 months old, and he's had the flu for about the last 4 months. So there you go.
Oh, God.
So more than half his life, he's had a flu.
Oh my God. Get rid of this winter. He'll have the time of his life. He'll think, geez, this is what living really is. He probably thinks that's all life is, just being under the weather for a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, Packy, mate, we've had the season over and done with, mate. We're going to talk about quite a few things. Let's run through the list very quickly. We will run through our last game of the season that we've since obviously played last weekend. And also, in immediate follow-up from that, we had our Players Player Award. That evening was on Saturday, so we'll talk about that as well. We'll talk, of course, as always, about your involvement with the club and particularly your history with our fantastic game of footy, mate. So, and then we'll just go into all sorts of shenanigans and sorts of things. And I'd really want to hear what you might think what's to anticipate for next year. So these are the sorts of things we're going to be talking about, mate.
Yeah, cool. All right. Sounds good.
Now, we'll start off. Tills, Ballajura against Ballajura. Oh,
Yep.
started early, Tills.
Sorry, mate. You caught me on the hop day, mate. Yeah.
For our listeners.
Hang on, I'll hit the side of the... I'll hit the side of the ball. I'll be good for the rest of the podcast, boys.
To our listeners out there who are regular, who will know that Tills is quite regular on our broadcast, we usually get this sort of shenanigans around about a third, 2/3, 3/4 through the program, but Tills is like Tills. I have to give you full credit, mate. You're like a watch, mate. You're on time every time. We've had a later start tonight, and we've paid the consequence.
We had actually, yes.
We paid the consequence. So you're usually having a piss around about this time of the night. So
it's not my fault.
It's exactly right. It's a scheduling issue.
Totally not my fault.
Okay.
All right. So that's all good.
Don't forget to wash your hands, Tills.
You sound like Donald Trump.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. That's right. It's fucking Mexicans.
That bloody wall.
Yeah.
Not big enough.
And you know who's building it? Bloody Mexicans.
Mexicans, they're paying for it, yeah.
Oh, see, that was his platform, wasn't it?
We'll build a wall.
Get them to make it.
And they will pay for it, yeah.
Yeah, but it's through illegal immigrants.
And he still won. Right. Anyway, other factors in play there, Tills.
Carry on. Let's follow the platform here, don't we?
Tackling the world's issues all at once at this podcast.
Sure.
Not solving them, but just tackling them. So,
yeah.
Anyway, we just bring them up for everyone else at the start.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ballajura.
All right, fire away, don't we?
Yes, the Ballajura, mate. Ballajura team. Look, wow. Let's talk a bit about Ballajura because I remember years ago that they were just sort of like a club that was, I don't know, the reputation I had, and I used to live in Ballajura way back in the day, my uni days, and I knew that their football club was just literally next door to where I lived. And they were just guys lower down the order, D grade, E grade sort of thing, and they were just a social club. But playing against them on our home ground on the first round, and certainly on this last game, and I've just spoke to guys like Reedy and Luke Grassi, and they were saying they're a quality side. They've got some quality players out there. They've just absolutely ripped through us, obviously, but you could see that they obviously had their shit together. Is that what you saw out there today on the Saturday? Hello, Tristan Pack, you still there?
Are you talking to me or are you talking to Till? Sorry.
No. It's all about
guest,
you,
mate.
man.
Yeah, look, they were obviously a good drilled side. Obviously executing their skills and decision making was good. So, it was very hard for us to compete, against that when unfortunately we had, I think 6 or 7 guys double up again. So,
yeah.
You're going against a team that isn't flying in terms of personnel, and we probably have a lot of players out of position to a degree. We tried JJ full forward for a while, and we had to push him back and things like that. So it was a case for us of just mixing it up a bit, trying to get the guys over the phone, and then last it out for the year, and it's been a tough one for everyone. So to be honest with you, I didn't go real good, but obviously. I don't see them as being probably the top side going around at the moment. I'd have to give that sort of flag to, that sort of thing to Basildine.
Yeah.
And I think Basildine are probably the form team at the moment, and also I believe Wilton as well. They're probably the two that I thought were more impressive in the second round of the season. So, I believe Ballajura had a few injuries, so that might have been a factor there.
Would you be tipping would you be tipping Basildine as chalk them into grand final, possibly taking the flag this year? Would that be your pick?
Look, I would say so, but as I said, I'd say the smoky would be Wilton, just because Wilton is still a young side.
Yeah.
And I think that Basildine had probably a well-mixed side with age and experience, and obviously they had some good quality players as well. So, I'd probably tip Basildine to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Wilton came through as well. They got about half a dozen 6'4" guys run around like midfielders,
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
and clunking balls left, right, and centre, marks, and a very good ruckman. So that helps. And the guy from Balladura, they had a East Perth guy down there playing as their ruck. He got injured, so I'm pretty sure he's not available for the final. So that's going to hurt Balladura, I think, in the mid area. So look, I'd probably lean towards Bassendean, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was more.
I didn't think that Balladura were really that impressive, Packy. Considering the team that we had out there, the guys that had doubled up, the little mix and match. Maybe they lost a bit of the sting out of it, but even when they played against us at the end of the first round at home, a couple of people going, well, Dave said, they're the best team he's seen all year. It really wasn't that impressive, even though they did the job on us. But, I think C1's, if you look at our first 3 rounds, the team that we had in there, we could have gone a long way and could have been real competitive against these sort of guys anyway.
Oh, look, I certainly think we would have won a few more games and we would have caused a few more hassles for other teams, that's for sure. But, as we all know, I think we lost, 11 players, 11 now top 22 after the third round, to injury, to illness, to whatever the case may be, holiday, blah, blah, blah. And we just never gained that ascendancy back. And most of those, a few of those players didn't even hang around after that. So, obviously it's disappointing from a club perspective, but, that impacts the team significantly, doesn't it? Can't cover that many players, and, especially when the club's struggling for depth, which we all know about. So,
yeah, very cool.
Yeah, look, I thought that Balladura were better first round, definitely, but they had a bit of structure, I think, as well with those other players. And I understand they've lost some key players, which obviously I said the ruckman, and there's probably a couple others as well. Yeah, that's going to hurt them if they don't get them back to finals. That's just the story, I guess. Yeah. For sure.
And as for us, Packy, obviously, we're going through, we'd have to look at it, rebuilding, and we were sort of looking at the idea of just getting through the season, looking for next year. And so I guess even before the season's finished, looking into, putting in mind what we can do now in preparing ourselves for next season to have another crack wherever we end up. It looks like C2s, but what's your take on it? Because you actually had you talked about people doubling up. You had quite a bit of a double up this year as well. I know Ben Mollett coaching the reserves had his hands full, certainly. Taking the role on pretty much by himself, and he was pretty much on the case of, look, I'll try what I can do. He knew he couldn't commit 100% to it as much as he wanted to, and it hurt. It hurt him not being able to commit as much as he could to it. And you oftentimes, more often than not, had to fill in that void, being on the bench and so forth. So, you had double duty in the coaching role for both reserves and league for most games. So if anyone's got a really good, I would suggest a good look on seeing how we're going on the field this year and what we need for next year, I'd say it'd be you. What do you think? I'm sure the answer's probably obvious, but maybe you could offer some better insights as to why or how. What could we do to rebuild for next year?
I'm going to interject and just say, you can't just say, look, it was just shit house this year. You don't have to be diplomatic.
You know what? It was tough coming from a club. Yeah, obviously I've been away from the club for 5 years, and been out of a different club that's going in a different direction, I guess, as well. So it was quite a different circumstance. So. It was partly, it was quite good just to come down and just enjoy it. And obviously, I know everyone down at the club, and I knew most of the boys, and probably a few I hadn't met before, and all that sort of stuff. So, that was great. And welcome back to Nums, which is fantastic. But I guess on the football side of things, you're not comparing apples with apples. You're comparing an apple with an orange, essentially. It's tough when you don't have a catchment area of younger players to come through. And I think when Kinner stepped aside previously, and to be part of what he was trying to do.
You still there? Oh dear, we seem to have dropped out.
So that's probably been on the agenda for a while, I guess, and everyone's talked about it from a Colts perspective, through to the juniors and alignments and so forth. And, obviously with Kingsway, they have their junior club and a very strong affiliation connection essentially to the senior club as well. Plus they have, the Masters and the like as well. So that, adds to the dimension of the club overall. And, gets people down there and fathers down there, and so, encourages young kids to keep playing footy and follow through from their younger juniors to the seniors, but to the 17s and 16s and all that sort of stuff. And so that gives the senior club at Kingsway a chance to have a crack at it, for Colts and the like. So, that's probably the biggest chasm for the Stirling club at the moment is we don't have that, albeit the connection's now back on board with the Stirling Stage Juniors. But I think that the eldest teams are 15, so is that right? Or,
year 11, so 16. So they're probably 2 years away, and then it's probably about 30 guys that have indicated in 2 years that they'll be ready for Colts. There are some avenues to actually get the Colts up and running next year as well. So, and you and I know, Packy, we've all been in the game this long enough, Damo, that without Colts, then there is no flow through of players. There's quality players that float through there, and just the guys that actually progress from leaving that junior scenario into a league sort of regime where that coaching development and playing with better players as well.
And I think that's a critical issue, Tills, is having them retaining those young boys coming through the system to stay and play senior footy. It's a hard thing to do. We even found that at Kingsway, despite their catchment area and the amount of players or options or depth they had, the guys they're different now. There's so many more options available out there to them from all types of perspectives. But back in the days when we were younger boys, and that was what you did, just a bit of camaraderie. You wanted to play footy with your mates on the weekend, but there's so many other alternatives to them now. So I guess that impacts that sort of situation as well.
Yeah, and how do you address that though, Packy? I mean, if I may pick your brain, we've always had those alternatives. We've always had the outdoor lifestyle, the easy option, and I think it's just mateship that's. Well, I'm going to play with Damo and Tass and Motto and Praddy and these sort of guys that we've always stuck around the club. It's always been the interest of girls and going out fishing and going out surfing and this and that. But, that hasn't changed in 30 years, I would have thought. Work-wise, it's probably harder to get a job now as a kid than what it was back in our day. I don't know. It's probably just a little bit of mental strength. Would that be?
Oh yeah, I'd say that this is probably a commitment factor as well. I know when I was playing, and I've had this chat with a few of the older generation of footballers. That we didn't go away during the season, and these days, it's not a big deal to take the weekend off, and half their luck really, but take the weekend off and say fly over to Bali or go over east or something like that. Yeah. I wouldn't have even contemplated that back in the day, but it's just different. I think it's just it's just such
it's an easy option.
Yeah, and there's a huge environment of options out there, I guess, isn't there? So yeah, it's just one of those things, mate. I don't think it has as much weight. It doesn't carry as much weight as what it used to.
Yeah. Actually, probably spot on.
There is actually an interesting thing that was raised with Tills, you mentioned before, Adam Tass, a mutual friend of ours. Basically, he's been pretty adamant in the idea that a lot of the grassroots these days is suffering in WA because of the AFL's unwillingness to basically give interstate sides, particularly places like Perth, an opportunity to do things. When they recently re-signed the AFL Grand Final over to be continued for, was it another 50 years, Tills, to Packy, for the MCG to host the AFL Grand Final? Was it 50?
Yeah. I think it's rubbish from 50 now, but yeah.
And then the
rubbish decision.
And then there was also the question about, like, we have the Anzac Day, we have the Good Friday game, and they're all like Victorian suburban teams, Melbourne suburban teams going head to head, where, which are supposed to be raising the profile. We talk about grand finals, being played at different places. What a great bit of exposure for the home, well, not the home team, but the city that hosts the grand final. It's a massive exposure of the game. It's great for the economy. It's certainly a big injection into the local football as well, like the waffle and that. Do you think that might have is that got a telling factor if it's not seen as much on our soil on this end of Australia? Do you think that's a factor that's influenced, the waning interest in many clubs as far as playing Aussie rules?
I think it's probably a combination of factors, mate, to be honest. But look, I suppose with the MCG and the grand final being held there, for the next 30 plus years, whatever they've agreed to, I can't remember the exact figure. But look, I don't necessarily have an issue with that, because obviously that's the home of football in terms of where it sort of started, and there's got to be a historical aspect to it as well. Everyone wants to play at the G on grand final day. And I don't think that there's capacity anywhere else in Australia anyway. I mean, I'd like to have it here in Perth, of course, but the capacity is 65,000. So, I've been to a couple of GFs there, and it's certainly a sight to behold, with basically 100,000 people in the ground. So, I don't know if that's going to sort of stop young players going through the system or wanting to choose football. But it sounds like the round ball game is getting a bit more exposure, from what I understand, talking to parents and that these days. That seems to be better at plugging more funding through the community and the socially younger sort of junior clubs and stuff like that, as a better option for juniors as opposed to going to football. For some reason, I don't know enough about it to comment on it, but that seems to be.
I'll make a little comment there. With the size of a team that's required for a junior football club to get to a 17s and then beyond, you look at Aussie rules, you need 22 people for the team.
Yep.
16 if you're playing our reserve team, obviously. but I mean, you can start up you can have a soccer team that has 11 people on the field.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to survive in a soccer environment than it is in a footy environment. But and saying that as well, Peggy, and I do agree with you with the AFL being Victorian based for sure. We grew up with it. We had a massively strong. It started away when Eagles came in 87, I think it was, and, which was before our senior football days. But that's never been a real issue, I don't think.
Mm.
Yeah, I think, look, at the end of the day, you do get qualifying, elimination and other preliminary final opportunities to play in your home state if you've deserved it. So I think that's as much as any club can expect. And unfortunately, our sport females, we haven't seen too many of those ourselves. But and obviously only one grand final. So
next year, mate.
No, I don't know when that's going to be, mate. But well, hopefully, Jess was not 18 before I see the first one. That's what I'm thinking. But anyway. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is a national competition, so I agree with that. I think that the fixturing's always geared around, the top Victorian supporter teams, so they draw the most crowd, and it's a money sport, really, isn't it? It's all about money. So from the AFL perspective, they just want to put bums on seats and reap as much income from it as they can. So that's always going to be the issue, isn't it? That's the underlying issue.
Yeah, the bottom. That's the bottom dollar. Yeah.
Yeah, but it'd be nice if they probably invested more into junior. I don't know the exact dollar figures or anything like that, but I feel that we're probably being overrun by the round ball game, from what I understand, and other sports. So they probably need to invest a bit more into the grassroots of footy.
Well, just an interesting post. So go, Tills.
Sorry, no. You go, mate. Yeah.
I was just going to say, just an interesting postscript about this part of the conversation we're having about the influences of the round ball. Just interesting to note that our Balcatta, I guess our brothers in winter sports, the Balcatta, there's 2 actual major soccer clubs in the Balcatta region alone, just in Balcatta, and they both have. Last time I heard was they had 2 senior teams in both clubs, and I think they even had women's teams in there as well, so both women's teams. So it's not as if they're suffering from it. It's a case, and I guess it could be a symptomatic of just the ethnic culture of Balcatta in there, is that we purely are Italian and obviously Mediterranean background, and that's obviously going to be well supported there. But yeah, I was just going to move on from there, Packy, as well, unless Tills was anything else to add to it before we move on.
I did, but I forgot about it now.
Okay.
All I would say also on the club's future is that that area, as you just mentioned, Damo, is a very ethnic area, but at the same time it's a mature ethnic area. Yes. So there's not a lot of young families as such as there used to be around that area. So that's also another issue from drawing on new players and stuff down the club. So eventually it will turn, but it's still. There's still a lot of other mature people that are living in that area. So until that sort of, the demographic changes, I think that's also going to have an impact.
Well, that really is.
I think that's turning now as well, Packy. With the strength of the juniors, it's been really good. They've had an extra 100 kids come through just this year from last year. So they've got about, it'd be massive what they got now compared to years gone by. So. That second generation is, parents die, kids buy their house, they develop it, they sell one, they keep one, and that high density living is another thing where, because they live in a 4x2 with no backyard or anything, what are they going to do? They're going to play sport to get their outlet for their activity.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Just moving on, this got a little bit serious now. Sorry.
That's a good point.
I had two other questions in the seriousness. I've just realised we're coming up to about the 25-minute mark here of the interview. So I want to actually start talking about you, Tristan, about your career. But before we do, something that's been racking my brain for about a month now since they came out in the media about the proposed rule changes that might come into play. They were thinking about experimenting at the end of this season when, for the bottom 8, when they said, these sides are obviously not going to make the top 8, so maybe we could experiment a couple of rule changes. It was about a month ago it came out. Tills, do either you or Packy, I did a little bit of reading on it. Have you guys got up to speed with what those rule changes are?
No idea.
Yeah, I didn't really follow it through the mate, to be honest.
The bottom 8 of what, though, mate?
Yeah, the bottom 8 of the bottom half of the AFL table for the league, the major competition here in Australia. They were going to try. It was proposed that they might, in the last couple of games, regular season games, for the bottom sides that have nothing really to play for, as far as finals contention is concerned, maybe adjusting a couple of rules. There are 3 major changes they were proposing on doing. The first one which is always in a state of flux, was the amount of interchange swaps that can be made during an AFL game, which never really has really affected grassroots footy anyway.
No.
The other one that came into play, I can't remember, but the one I found was really interesting was when the ball goes up, it's the actual setup of the players on the field. And as you would know, when you have what's the basic ruling when you have the ball going up? You only have a certain amount of players within the centre square, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. I was talking about fixing their positions. So.
Exactly, yeah. So 4 people. Yep. Today it's been 4 players from either team inside the centre square. Anyone else wants to go anywhere else outside of the square, so be it. You want to play a loose man, 2 men, if you want to play the whole side down one end, it's unusual, but yeah, you can. But what they were thinking about proposing, Tills, is that when the ball goes up, when you have the main field umpire throwing the ball up and you've got the 2 other umpires on the opposite adjacent corners of the square, making sure no one breaks the centre, having those guys monitoring the 50 metre arcs on both ends, and you have your 6 forwards and your 6 backs partnered up, or whatever it is, within those 50-metre ranges. No one outside the 50-metre ranges from either end. So you have your 4 in the middle from one side, your 4 in the middle from the other side, and you have your 2 wingmen on outside there. The only ones are allowed in that area, in that side between the 2 50-metre arcs, were not inside the square. So you have, if you're hearing me, like your 6 forwards from your line inside your 50, your 6 backs inside your back 50. No one's allowed to break out of there until the ball goes up.
Yeah.
What do you think about those ideas? What possibly could be worth noting about that might change the game?
That doesn't change the game at all. Packy?
Look, the only thing you'd do potentially is create a little bit of space, immediately after the ball up, instead of having, guys sort of running off the back of the square or running into the contest to make it more of a numbers game. So it just makes that a little bit more difficult. It's not going to make a huge difference, I wouldn't have thought, but it could just change a few things or some tactics. So, is it really going to help the game? I don't know, mate.
I don't think so.
I don't think it's going to change things. And, I mean, having a bigger goal square, I mean, all that helps is the guy kicking out from goal, really, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So, if they really want to do it, they kick to themselves and kick out anyway. So what we're saying is that kick to themselves won't happen anymore. They won't need it. They'll just kick it out. So, it's a couple of interesting decisions that they're making on those rule changes, and I don't think any of them really are going to have a massive impact on the game.
Not at all in the general play of things, Becky. Where the issue is where the general plays, and we should get probably off this topic, but okay, you look at the incident on the weekend playing against Ballajura. The ruck circle was 3 metres from the outside wing. That was just absolutely appalling. They've got a cricket pitch in the middle, and they put it. It's just ridiculous. It was pathetic. But
a nice solid hit. And you're already outside the 50, outside and looking inside the 50.
Yeah, you had another 2 midfielders right in the rack tap. So probably helped us for congestion. Well, it didn't really help us because they had an extra number to run away. But, I'll give kudos to the boys, mate. They did not give up. They haven't given up all year. They've been pretty good. Well, they gave up in training, which doesn't help them. Yeah. And made it really difficult for you and Kinger as well, Pacquiao, I dare say.
Yeah, look, it was tough. And, but, I was proud of the boys for still, competing and, putting their names up and still having a crack, essentially. In most games, they didn't drop their bundle and, they turned up and, the guys that did and, they did their best on the day. And, it's a little bit hard to coach because there's nothing much you can do, really, especially when guys don't turn up to training. You can't implement any game plans or strategies or, structures, really, because no one there to talk to about them. And then on Saturday, they don't know what you're talking about anyway. So it's really a caretaking role, I guess, especially in the reserves team, when Molly wasn't around and had to pick up the reins. But, it was more about just getting the basics through the guys and, obviously kicking the ball forward and just keep it going our way as much as we could, and just try and stay on their players and be accountable. So very basic sort of stuff. It wasn't no sort of flamboyance about it, that's for sure.
Well, I know that the AGM that's going to be coming up towards later this year is going to be a very interesting one. I know we had our committee meeting just very recently last week, Packy, and the last 2 or 3 committee meetings we've certainly been discussing quite intensely about what can be done, and big changes. We've hinted at big changes all season as far as even from the start, but we're actually taking action. And I don't know how much I'm at whim to say what we have got in place and what we have got in planned and what I propose, but we have had people from outside the club come in and speak to us. We've had the president of the WAAFL come speak to us 2 meetings ago and heard us and his feedback as well, and everything from juniors players to other surrounding clubs and competing in that. I'm sure these ideas, if you're listening right now, If you want to hear what these ideas are, look, I certainly don't think this is the forum for us to talk or bring out to the light what these ideas are, but certainly at the AGM, they're certainly going to be put forward as to these are the directions, these are the options we have. So, so look, as far as it's not a case of us just talking about, we could do this, we could do this. There are actually serious considerations, and the AGM will be a point of, right, this is what's been laid out, we're pulling the trigger on this is the plan. We've already put wheels in motion as to people, like I said, outside of the club who can help us and assist us in everything from players' numbers to all sorts of things and that we can put into play. I won't say any more about it. Just one last thing about the fielding positioning. Let's just say you've kicked a goal and you've got 2 minutes left and you're up by a kick and it's a vital game. You can't swing a couple of players in the back line to block up their forward line with that positioning. So
are you calling yourself Port Adelaide?
Well,
Because seriously, that was the dumbest thing I think I've seen in football, considering you're allowed to do it right now.
Yeah.
You're up by, 2 points or whatever it was, and there was 40 seconds left in the game. I mean, that doesn't take rocket science to figure out that one. So, I was shocked. The fact that they didn't have the forward 50 flooded. And they had bad matchups too.
Yeah,
I think Brad Ebert was on Mitch McGovern. So yeah.
Well, he did move. McGovern did move from the back line straight to the forward line. So I don't know if he did it on his own choice or got the runner out quick, smart, but it was obviously the winning move. So
well, there was 6 on 6. So I would say that he just obviously they got it out quickly that message, and he was on his bike. But how the guys report?
I know.
Yeah, that's accountability there, and it's not just the players, it's the coaching staff, it's the runners, whatever. But I would have been out there, and we have done that. In fact, I think in the game against, I think it was a Kenwick that we won, our third win of the season, which was the third game up from the season, was a close game towards the end, and we were telling all of our half forwards, don't on the light to get down back and block up the holes. It's just a smart way to play. So, and
that's how much of footy as well, Packy. I mean, these guys are professional. Why wouldn't they just fucking do it themselves?
I don't know, mate. I don't know. That's just that I was bamboozled. Plus, it cost me my multi, so I wasn't happy.
Only Hinkley will know the answer to that one, I'm sure.
So the answer to that question, mate, is this rule change will affect that greatly, won't it? So that'll just be what happened to Port Adelaide and the Eagles on the weekend.
Yeah. Well, it's proposed. It's not in the bag. We don't know if it's going to go ahead, but that was what was proposed. So anyway, let's move on. Let's move on, Packy. Let's talk about you. You've had some very good insights. Tills is on his second piss for the night. That's fantastic.
Just about done. That's all right.
So, Packy, let's talk about when did you start playing AFL footy? I mean, have you come through the rungs through, from a young tacker in primary school? Did you play other sports before you moved to footy?
Footy was always my primary sport. So, I think I started football at 7 or 8 or something, and I've always been pretty tall and pretty big. So I only lasted about half a year, and then I got put into under 9. So I started footy pretty early, I suppose, in that respect. So 2 years of under 9s effectively. So junior footy down at Kingsley Footy Club, and
Kingsley boy, Packy.
Yeah, Kingsley. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Far out.
So what made
and then you went on to Waffle.
Yeah, so went down to West Perth and went through the ranks there. Played some Colts and reserves footy. I didn't register a league game, unfortunately. I think the closest I got was a third emergency call-up. Virtually nothing because it doesn't show anywhere, so nobody else knew except for me. But then a couple of the AFL boys got pushed back into the side, so I didn't look enough for that, unfortunately.
And then did you get a gig at Peel as well, Packy? Or
I went and played. Played a couple of pre-season games for them. They were asking us to come down there. Following that year at West Perth, sort of decided mutual agreement that it wasn't going to work for us, and so I went down there for a couple of games, and it was actually between them and Subi, and I think I chose Subi because of the ease to get the training and training on Subi Upper Oval and all that sort of stuff, and ended up only playing I think 2 Perez's games for them, so didn't quite persuade us. We probably could have got some league footy out of playing it down the field, but it was always a difficult task to get down the training and all that sort of stuff. The great Steve Bazzo used to was involved in getting involved with Peel at that point, and he was helping us get down there and all that sort of stuff. So some good people that were around the place. But so decided to stay at Subi, and then I ended up getting a transfer with work to Mora and played some country footy.
Oh, Mora.
Dave Mora College, eh?
Mora Rovers. So that was the team, and then I had two, the Warriors and the Rovers, and ended up playing for the Rovers and working at the Bank West in Mora for a while. So that's how that came about. And the following few years I ended up staying on some country footy, which was very interesting. And
what years were those with? What years were that? Around about what year was that, Packy?
The 2001, 2002, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, it'd be about right for the timeline, and that's the reason, because you played for Mora. That's the reason why Stewie Horden went up there.
I think he was already he's a local, so yeah, he was already there. I didn't encourage him there. He's a local, and not take anything out of that, but no, he was already local and stuff, and really good people up there, actually, to be honest. And I learned a lot. I ended up living up there for 10 months, and it would have been longer, but didn't quite have a good relationship with my boss at the bank, so I ended up getting transferred back to Perth. And fortunately, they liked what they saw with me for the first. I think I played about 5 or 6 games for them, including the grand final, which we lost. To good old Savannahs, who I think Butch Baroni and Lloydie Haskett and guys like that were running around. So
that's right. Yeah,
I was 19, 20. I would have been 20, 21, I suppose. And then these guys are very well drilled professional footballers that are quality footballers, obviously, and hard at it. And we had a fairly big learning experience there, I can tell you.
I bet. Bloody hell. It's true.
So then when did you... Sorry, go, Tils.
You came down to Aussie Park next year, did you? Or Stirling that next year?
Yeah, it was actually... Darren O'Brien was, I think, coaching the guys then when I was playing up at Mora, and I ended up training with the guys. So he allowed me to come down and train, and so I also knew Obi from West Perth days, and I think at that stage Trevor Green was playing for you guys, or Shane, definitely Shane was. I'm pretty sure Trev was around the traps as well. And so, anyway, he ended up, I think, coming up and watching a couple of games. And then after my 2-year stint there, he asked me to come down and play for Balcat Aussie Park at the time. And, that's where I think I started playing down there with the club. So I might have played a Colts game in between, coming back from injury in West Perth or something, or... That's probably
I reckon you may have done that, actually, Peggy. Yeah,
I remember it. Because you remember your good games, and that was one of them. So, for that reason. It's handy being you're pretty fit when you're playing at that level, and I was fitter than a few of the other boys, so that helps. So, yeah.
I do remember the fitness when we did pre-season. We're talking quite a few years ago with Stirling and Packy, and I remember we were over at Warwick Senior High School. I don't know if you remember this, but we actually had the gym there for a bit, and we actually had the shuttle run challenge, the beep test. Now,
my favourite one. Yeah, I like that.
I was going to say, you were very handy. Like, I was surprised. I mean, I shouldn't be that surprised, because obviously your history of playing footy, obviously you need to be fit, but for a big man such as yourself, and you're one of the fit, one of the taller guys, and naturally it's not usually one of the taller blokes who can stick it out, do a full run and be one of the last ones standing. What was your can you remember what was your best beep test standing?
Oh, now you're testing the memory. I hated that freaking thing. God. I think I used to feel nauseous before we started it, to be honest. And then obviously during stages during, very nauseous, and at the end, I never actually spewed though, but I reckon I might have got both. I'm trying to think, is it probably my best?
I reckon you've been in the 13s easy.
What was that, sorry, mate?
I reckon you would have made the 13s. I reckon
I think my best was 12, probably 12-1 or 12-2. I think was my best. In that, and obviously I've done that a few times, unfortunately, through different pre-seasons at different clubs. But no, not quite 13, mate. That's elite. And I would have been struggling to get to the one that I got to, I reckon.
That's right.
Yeah. Somewhere around there. That would be, I guess.
Well, if it's any benefit, Packy, I reckon Shane's best was 6'4".
Oh, really?
Shane Green, of course.
Yeah. Well, he's a very good player, so maybe he didn't need to have the endurance that I needed to cope with it. But that was probably my strength, was my endurance and agility around the ground, and I lost that completely, as you could see from this year. But anyway.
Well, I mean, your sort of agility becomes naturally something that you just forego. You hand in your card for agility when you turn 30, 35, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hey, let's talk a bit about the player's player that we just had very recently.
Can we step back for a little bit?
No, of course, Tills. We can do anything.
About Packy's playing career at Stirling. I remember him very vividly. One of the early games, you got KO'd back then.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember that. You were very supportive, mate. So I'll never forget that.
It's probably where I met your old man. He was a big supporter of you. Yeah. He probably still is.
Different degrees, but yeah.
That's probably where I first met you, Packy, and got to actually really know you.
Yeah.
You got nailed that day. Yes, you got nailed that day.
Absolutely whacked, I think.
Yeah, what happened?
And it was a shame because it was one of those days when you're playing all right and the ball, and then got hit after the ball was delivered. So, and then it's actually the only time in my career I've actually been physically knocked down and stretched off.
And I reckon you got sniped because you were playing a good game that day. All right, I do remember that.
Yeah.
I always remember that. It was funny.
Yeah, no, look, I certainly haven't forgotten much. So, and you've always been a good bloke, Till, so that hasn't changed. So,
and you've always been a little bit retarded after that, Packy.
Well, that's probably an explanation for a lot of things, mate, to be honest. But, anytime I've been knocked out, I've certainly had hits after playing, all that sort of stuff, especially playing country footy and things of that nature. And it shouldn't be part of the game, but unfortunately it can be. And that was just one that definitely obviously got the better of me, because I woke up in the room with you next to me and I was going, what the fuck just happened?
No, I shouldn't have been whacking you off.
That was probably the better part of it.
Yeah, your old man looked at me funny. I know what I'm...
Well, I woke up, didn't I? So
you did, mate.
He's okay. You've got to make sure.
Sorry, Sharu. All right, what was your question?
No, that's beautiful. I was actually, since we're going on getting knocked out, I remember Tills, I don't know, Packy, if I may, I'll tell you a story about when Tills once got cleaned up and was sort of knocked unconscious. And this is quite a few years ago, Tills. And I wasn't there for this, but I remember being told the story, and it was quite amusing. If you probably already know what the story I'm going to talk about is, you're on the sidelines, and I think it was you were very groggy and you were sort of all over the place, and did the hold the finger up and follow my finger, and you were sort of all over the shop. And I think I
can relive it for you, Damo, just quickly.
Go for it.
We are getting carried away, but I remember it was Oz Park. I just started playing league, and Killer Villa Magna, young killer.
Yeah.
I remember backing into something. Yeah, I'm making a heroic now. Backing into a pack, and then just a boom,
back of the head,
lights out.
Yep.
Next thing I know, stretcher, and we had a really good physio chick there. She was really nice. And I think Wade Tass had a little bit of a thing with her at that time. And we got to the dugout back in those days. Just
had that one in.
On a function night. But she asked me, Tilly, today's a special day. What day is it? I said, it's a sunny day.
It was supposed to be Mother's Day.
It's Mother's Day. Yeah. That too. Good times. I mean, you never remember getting knocked out. It doesn't hurt, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you don't know anything about it, so...
Until afterwards and the headache hits in, yeah. Well, Packy, look, let's talk. We're talking about the player's player that we just had.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Dishot obviously took it out this year. It's his second season at the club. Very, very, very good award for him to win, obviously. And then you looked at the also rans. I know Marlon came second place before he transferred himself to Gosnells, I think it was. And I think it was Eddie who got third, I think, and he played a handful of games. So do you think it's obviously well deserved by Dish there? What are your thoughts of Dish?
Oh, Dish is a quality player, so he uses the ball really well, great skills, and he keeps going all day. So easy guy to coach, to be honest. Does his job, and it's obviously like most of us, he's a confidence player, so his confidence is up. He's a gun, so. I think he had a few really good games middle to late in the season. Unfortunately, tweaked the hamstring a couple of times playing alternate sports, which cost him games and so forth. So he probably would have possibly won it by more if that wasn't the case. So
dare say that the fact that he probably turned up to most training sessions, I reckon, Packy.
He was great.
There might be a correlation to that. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And the more training you do, the better you get at your craft, right? So that's just a fact of life. It's not rocket science. It's just how it is. So he was. You're right. He was very very present at most training sessions. So that obviously works well for. Playing well on the Saturday, doesn't it? You generally can't go out and perform on a Saturday if you haven't done any training during the week. So it goes hand in hand.
And Dish is proof of that. He's got the award to show you. So
absolutely. And then other guys like Kizza came flying home, and another young boy that was pretty much at most trainings, not every one. He got injured a couple of times as well, unfortunately, but hamstring as well. So. But he sort of was flying home, and obviously Marlon was flying early, so it's pretty obvious. And Eddie's pretty consistent, isn't he? And he's won three first and best of the club already, or something. So you know what you're going to get with Eddie, don't you? Adam Edwards.
Yeah, he's just class. Yeah, absolutely class.
Absolutely, yeah.
Future life member anytime, I reckon. So he's certainly got his stake for it. Well, what about that then, Packy? What about, we talk about good players and class players and so forth. In your career, what are some of the best players you've ever shared the field with? I mean, you mentioned being at West Perth and that, so there's surely some big names there. So start with some of the players that you played alongside with, that you were the best players outside of our club that you played alongside with, and some of the players that are a part of our club that you played alongside with.
That's a good question.
Always is a good one, every week.
I know, everyone says that, don't they?
I played probably alongside quite a few good players, I suppose, and I'm trying to think of names now that you say it, but I was at Kelly's down at West Perth, and kills my hand.
Good at thirds, eh?
You guys crack a mention, so don't worry about that. I don't know. I thought I played with guys like Ben Cousins and that. Not Ben Cousins, Brett Cousins, I should say, down at West Perth. Quality footballer. He went and played quite a few league games for them. There would have been guys that came back and played for the twos at some stage that were, consistent league players that come back from injury and stuff. I played on several guys, Gus Seaback, I think I played on him in the reserves final match or one before that.
Did you have a
medal and stuff? So
did you have a guy that you compete against that you thought, I really respect this guy? If I'm going to be wrapped, sort of thing, or?
Yeah, look, I'd say that would be when I was playing at Mora, and I came up against Greg Egan, who was playing for Cervantes. And, we ended up backing up against each other for a couple of years in a row. And and both being ruckman, and there wasn't a centre circle at that point, so you basically just ran into each other from 20 metres away. And I think that's where my knees are starting to give way now. But you used to just run into each other, and the guy knew he was a quality player, and I think he won a standover potentially. I'm not sure if that was before or after or something along those lines, but so he was obviously a decent, at that waffle level, and a good waffle player, and going back for some money at the country, and we had a couple of really good tussles and a couple of grand finals against each other, and I think I did my best to impact the game, but definitely halved the contest in the middle because he was a quality player, and I think there was some mutual respect there. I hope there was, because I was a bit younger than him, but I certainly did my best to try and negate his influence, but he's a good player, so it was what it was, I guess.
Good to have that challenge though, Packy, eh?
Yeah. Look, because I moved around a bit, it was hard. You didn't really have anyone that you come up against consistently to think about that sort of situation. There was always the odd one or two guys that you come up against and thought, I've got a big day ahead of me, sort of thing, and all that sort of stuff. And I think I even played against David Hines one day. He's come back from injury down at South Trio. So, look, it's funny how you come across certain players in your career, and it is what it is, I suppose. But with the guys down at Stirling, I'd say, definitely had some good quality players, and I was looked up to Shane Green, because when I was down there, he was our league ruckman, and I was sort of pinch hitting, giving him a bit of a rest every now and then, and things of that sort of nature. And we had guys like Lewis and Evo, and I thought those guys get the shit out of me, to be honest. And I was very glad they were on my side, because they were very intimidating players. They were physical players, but certainly good footballers as well, and hard at the ball, and hard at the player as well. And they didn't take a backward step, and I definitely admired that and respected them for that. And as I said, I was very glad they were on my side, because I wouldn't have wanted to come up against them, to be honest. So that was a bonus from that perspective. And I was playing with Kinger as well for a few years. That was nice. It was good to be able to do that, and obviously become good mates from there on. So that was through initial playing together and him becoming the coach and lots of stuff. And on that, Packy, you guys have you've achieved a lot over your coaching career together as well, So, we certainly had some success down Kingsway, which was always the plan, to take the club from C grade to A grade for the first time, and we definitely achieved that, which is great. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see this year, but that brought a new opportunity down at Stirling. So I think it was a pretty intense 5 years at Kingsway, to be honest. And the relief of probably coming back to a familiar place for us was a factor, as well as I suppose it wasn't as much pressure. Well, certainly wasn't as much pressure down at Stirling, because we knew what sort of position we were in. Well, we're still able to win all the 3 games, to be honest, but it didn't work out that way. So
politics.
And to let our listeners know that, you guys only got the gig just weeks out of the season starting proper, because of extenuating circumstances, but still can't say it. But extenuating, so, but it was good to have you boys come home, so. Yeah, we always loved the club, so there's no issues there. And I didn't leave because I didn't like the club. I just thought it was hard to coach my mates. And so that's why we went to Kingsway. And I think that was the same with Kinger, to be honest, because he got close with a lot of the boys. And, it was not sort of respecting. It was more about, professional development. Yeah, professionalism about it, and understanding where the line was. And that's not always clear in some circumstances. So, taking that fresh start was a good way to do that. And look, to be honest, I probably played a few more games there that I wanted to play, and I certainly wasn't going to play against Stirling, that's for sure. So never did that. And you probably played a few games this year than you should have. Correct. Yeah. I was fortunate that last year at Kingsway I didn't have to put on the boots at all, which I was very, very happy with. And so coming back to Stirling and then having to put the boots on a couple of times, and I love the game. I absolutely love the game. So you know what? I saw the smile on you and Kinger's face when you guys were actually playing, and you do miss it, eh? Oh no, it's
I love the game, and I just wish I could have contributed a bit more. And unfortunately, I didn't really do a proper pre-season. We did a bit of running around, but not enough. And the body's not really complying anymore with what I wanted to do. So, broke down a couple of times, which was frustrating as well. And but no, look, when we were out there, mate, it was good to be back out there. To be honest, it's just at the end of the game when you realise, oh shit, what have I got myself into?
Yeah. I know. And you're sore for 7 days.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. That's just the way of life, I suppose. But it was a shame they couldn't get involved more and stuff. But no, it's probably not up to us anymore. It's up to the
that's right.
The Gen X guys to get their mates down there and hopefully boost the club up for next year. And
Gen Z actually, mate, not Gen
X.
Z.
Sorry,
Gen X is us,
sorry.
mate.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say Gen Z, but
Gen Z,
on the brain. But it was there's a potential there for the club to be a better club going forward, and it's going to be relying on the younger guys coming through and bringing some mates along, and whether a merge happens or not, we need everyone's support, and they can still enjoy their footy, and C2 will be a competitive side, so there's a chance to play some finals, and maybe who knows, if we can attract a few guys down and stuff, we might even have a chance to be in a grand final.
Yeah, we were at the spot in 97, 96, 97, and we know what happened in 98, and so maybe it's a case of history ready to rewrite itself. So never know, Packy.
Absolutely.
Never know. And it's a great opportunity for anyone who's still at the club to be a part of that. I mean, it's like I said before, we're only 3 years away from our 100 years existence of our club. It's within the realm of possibility of us, making a sharp turnaround starting next year to, getting a flag at least, or, somehow bringing the club back to the rightful glory, so it's an opportunity. If you want to be a part of it, you can still be a part of it. So it's there. Anyway, mate,
absolutely.
Let's talk about something that's really near and dear to all three of our hearts, probably more so to me and, well, actually, no, Tills as well. Let's talk about poker.
Passionate, Damo, passionate.
Passionate. Let's talk about poker. Let's talk about shuffling up and dealing.
Here we go.
We've got the last game coming up tomorrow night, Packy. Last one for the season. It's been the biggest poker season all year. Since I've been at the club. We've played, I think this is like our 7th or 8th round. And it could be anyone's game at this stage to take out the bracelet. King is leading, I think, by about 16 from Fraggers, who's been there for the last 4 seasons, and then you've got me at 3rd. I've crept up, and Tills, you're not far behind. You've come. Have you won this year, Tills? You've come second a couple of times, haven't you?
I think I've come second a couple of times. I haven't played the last couple of rounds. Yeah. It's really hurting my chances.
And Packy,
I think there's a couple of guys hate me playing.
It's because you're very aloof.
Aloof. That's a good word, Packy.
And you won last round, Packy. Was it?
We've had a match.
Was it you that you won last round? No.
Nah, mate. I came 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and
you've been there.
Here, so I'm there and thereabouts, mate. But I can't knock anyone out because I keep getting beaten on the river.
Yeah.
That's my
too.
Yeah. I think I pretty much every time I go all in, and if I do win that particular hand, then the other guys got me covered. So I just win a few chips, but invariably I'm up, or I've got the nuts, either on the flop or whatever, and then out comes a river card, and it just
sucks out.
Just pre-surprise me every time.
Would you describe yourself as the unluckiest bloke in poker at the club, or does that?
I don't know if I'm the unluckiest, but that's unfortunate that keeps happening. I would have liked to knock a couple of blokes out, but I just can't do it. So I mean,
you've had some bad beats, Packy. You really have.
Look, that's poker at the end of the day, isn't it? Yeah.
Damo did this last year. He kept going back to Donna and she'd go, "Oh, how'd you go?" "Yeah, no, I came 6th."
Yeah.
And
I dealt most evening.
Now you go to Sheree and you go, "I came 4th." "Oh, cool. What'd you win?" "Yeah, nothing."
But probably a couple of times, I think. But look, it is what it is. So I sort of hang around, I think, which is probably the best strategy, and go hard when I need to. But it just happens that other guys have better cards, and that's just poker, isn't it? Good fun though, enjoying it.
Yeah. Who's the most frustrating to play against heads up, do you think?
Oh, geez. I'll probably have to say Brendo, because it takes ages to make a decision.
Fucking hell.
So, you know, like, especially in the condition that he comes to some of the games. But, yeah, he's sometimes good value, and sometimes you just think, hurry up.
Yeah, clock's ticking. Yeah, who's the most savvy poker player, apart from yourself, obviously?
Savvy? Ooh, probably Tills. He's pretty savvy, he goes about it. Now, look, I'd say Fraggers. Fraggers knows what he's doing, and he sort of obviously plays around his chips and all that sort of stuff, and you know, I can't do that sort of stuff, but
I love his seriousness.
Is what to us?
I love Fragrance' seriousness. He takes it to heart, you know, just
the pursed lips.
Yeah. The read, he puts the read on, he tries to read you,
yeah, he's an intense poker player. When he's out of the hand, he's pretty good. He's funny. He loves talking that. But his biggest pet peeve is no influencing the hand. Influencing the hand.
I've got that a few times.
Oh yeah. Don't you ever say anything about? Geez, I had this card. No, don't influence. You should do. No, don't influence the hand.
And then that went on for a little bit too long. But anyway, that was just me going enough to try. It's actually fun. I missed out the first couple of rounds, but enjoying it. So we probably need to advertise that a bit more, because I know King I was talking about today, and he said it's still on. And I said to him, I think it is, but I haven't seen another post about it. So
well, after this interview, I'll pop one up. Because I had to postpone it from last week, but so obviously I haven't posted anything for it. So I'll certainly put it on tonight, and hopefully the word will get around.
Is it the last round tomorrow, Damo?
Sorry, what was that, Tills?
Is it the last round tomorrow?
This will be the last round of the season. We can't just say one more. We agreed about 3-4 rounds ago that we said that we'll play it till I think it's 7 rounds. So, and it was figured to be the last round of the season that we're going to play. And unfortunately, we couldn't do it last week, so it has to be this week.
Bigger buy?
Sorry, Tills?
Bigger buy-in or normal?
I think we decide on the night. I think we decide what we feel like. It's been $25 at this stage every part. I don't know. Look, we'll throw it to the boys. We'll see how we feel. I know we usually typically have had $50 buy-ins, and we've had a much bigger pot, which is fantastic. So, so I mean, it's certainly I'd be for the $50. Why not? It's it's what a way to go home. If you end up winning, if there's 10 of you playing, there's $500 up there to go for the grab. So.
Almost like winning the Powerball.
Oh, just about.
That's right.
Yeah. No, like you feel like as if you've earned it too. You've gone through the rigours and played the cards right. Yeah.
Oh, so if you beat all you blokes, you have, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Hey, well, Packy, I've come runner-up twice this last 2 rounds, so I'm one step away from upsetting everyone.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it doesn't eventuate tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Are we going to start early?
We'll aim to start early. We'll aim to start around.
Yeah, we've got no footy, got no other idiots down at the club drinking beer. So we just get it going.
Yeah, so it'll be about 7:30, I reckon. 7:30 is a reasonable time. So, of course,
I reckon 7:30 kick off sort of thing. So get there by 7, 15, and
get everything ready, straight into it. Yep. And finish up at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I'm going to start at work at 5:30 tomorrow, Friday morning. So,
I'll do
you can edit all this out, can't you?
Definitely, Tills, yeah. Definitely, mate. It's all on the cutting floor. It'll be on the cutting room floor, this part.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, you're welcome to go aggressive against me, Tills. You've got nothing, and I've got a hand. That's fine with me. I've got no issues there.
Nah, Baggy.
So you go home early, mate.
We both play.
Well, Packy, we'll wrap things up here, mate. We'll go to our final 3 questions for you before we wrap things up. We'll start off with 3 questions. The typical first one is it's the old kick after the siren. We're in front. We're 40 metres in front where the free kick is in our own 50. We're down by a goal. This goal will seal it, win the game, grand final, flag, woohoo, big yahoo. Who would you prefer, who you've played with in our club, or who you see now? who would you rather have that ball in the hands to take that whole game, the whole kit and caboodle?
Ooh.
Talk us through some considerations and narrow it down.
I'm trying to think back. So I'm pretty sure I've played close to 150 games down the club, to be honest, or thereabouts. So I'm big pushing it.
You'd be pretty bloody close, I reckon, Becky.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You can name yourself.
No. I used to be a really good shot at goal, and then I've lost it. So, I can barely kick 35 metres these days. So I wouldn't pick myself. I'd probably, trying to think back, probably Kit McGrath, Al McGrath.
Yeah.
Was pretty good shot.
That's a good one.
David Seacon was pretty good. Thanks. Who else used to have a pretty good kick? Trying to think of the brothers, the Hammond boys. Jared was a pretty lethal shot, and there's probably a few guys who could throw up at you for that. I'm trying to think of the full four that we had when I first got down the club.
Matty Cullen,
that's it. Matty had a great kick of goal as well. So, current day players would probably say Dame Lloyd, and they'd probably even give Kinger a shot because he's not a bad shot.
Yeah.
So
Western Bulldogs did play him in the back line through his career.
They did, and he read the ball best down there. So unfortunately, Neeson was not smart enough to realise that. But when he was playing at Freo, but he did kick goal of the year, and he keeps reminding us all of that one when he can. And it's on YouTube for those that haven't seen it. But I think it was on his Tinder profile at some stage too. So, yeah.
It would have been. And that has helped him out so well.
We've got the goal kicking sorted out. And you mentioned a couple of four for this one, but let's say it's a melee, all in. You find yourself on the field and it's you in a sea of opposition by yourself, but you have one other teammate by you to help you out. Who's that teammate?
Oh, without doubt ever.
Yeah.
Bloody hell, he's I'd want him over on my side every time, mate, because he takes no shit and takes no prisoners. So, definitely ever. That's a pretty easy one to answer.
Right, yeah. And finally, mate, look, did you look? Oh, geez, it's your playing days. I mean, even though you're playing this year, let's say your playing days. Did you manage to choose on the day you thought, well, this is my last game, I'm retiring, and you're stepping down, and you had a bit of a pensive moment, or you got chaired off? Did you ever have that happen in your career? Or was it just a case where you just sort of opt the off season? Oh, I can't come back.
There's a bit of a running joke at the moment. I feel like John Farnham. I've had more comebacks from times than he's had tours, But I think I've tried to tie at least 3 or 4 times. Unfortunately, going down with a hip flexor injury in the game against Queens, which is not a good way to exit the game. I'd say that's pretty much going to be it. As I say, I tried to retire once I left Stirling 5 years ago, and ended up getting lost our ruckman in the first game of that season for Kingsway, and so Kingsley ended up convincing me to run around again, and so I suppose I've retired a few times, but I'm thinking it's probably going to be for good this time.
Well, it leads me to my last question, Packy. If you could have your time again where you could actually say this is it, and you got chaired off the last game, anyone from our club, which 2 blokes would you have chairing you off the ground?
I don't know. Again, are we talking current day? We're talking
anyone you want, mate, from your playing history at this club or current. It's totally up to you.
Should whoever wants to do it, really, to be honest. I probably deserve that type of accolade. So, mate,
who can carry you?
Beggars can't be choosers, and whoever can lift me now would be doing well, because I reckon I weigh 105, 110 Ks, and I was never that when I was playing properly. So, I'll take whoever was prepared to do it, mate.
Anyone's foolish enough. All right, then, Packy. Mate, that's it. That's us. We're done for another last. It's our last podcast for our inaugural season on From the House to the Holly, mate. And you've wrapped it up with class for us, mate.
Oh, thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Do what I can.
Yep. Tills.
Brilliant, Packy. I fucking really enjoyed it. And we'll have the season that was.
Yes.
And it'd be good to get a session down at the club where we all sit around. Those guys that have partaken in the podcast. We do a Christmas special or something like that.
Yeah, something, a Christmas special, Tills.
Yeah, well, maybe a November special or something, I don't know.
Or maybe we might even have an opportunity for a couple of blokes. We'll put a couple of notes maybe on the club website, the club Facebook page. If you've got any questions or any comments you want to throw to us, we can discuss it at a round table in our season wrap-up. That might be something we'll consider.
All guests that have been on have present and that sort of thing, So, yeah.
Well, I'll put that on there.
Something in the off-season.
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. Packy, as for you, mate, thank you very much for joining us, mate. Very, very well done this season under trying conditions for one of the coaches, mate. You've done very well. Very proud to have you on board with us.
Thanks for that, guys. Appreciate you involved me in this. And, looking forward to bigger and better things in the next few years to come, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking definitely, mate. And, fucking brilliant, Packy. I really enjoyed that, and that was great.
Cheers.
Cool. No worries, guys.
See you tomorrow, mate. I'll be on the river. I'll be on the river.
No worries, Packy.
I'm sure you will be. Don't worry. I'll be.
And for you, Tills, mate, I'm going to say goodnight to you as well, mate. We're done. I'll say goodnight to you. Pleasure having you on when we'll do one more.
Good night, boys.
No worries.
All right, cheers, guys.
And to all our listeners, thank you guys once again if you've come this far. As always, it was always a pleasure to have you on board. Keep an ear out for next season, obviously for our wrap-up at the end of the year. That'll happen, obviously, the next 2 or 3 weeks. You'll notice it when it turns up. And if not, wait until next year, 2019. It'll be a good year for the Stirling Saints. Just you wait and see. It's from Damon Eden, Daniel Tilby, having you a good night, boys and girls, and we'll see you next year. Bye.